Hello? Hello, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the afternoon sessions. I hope you all managed to get some lunch. I saw the queues were pretty long, so hopefully you all managed to get something and are refueled, ready for an afternoon of fantastic speaking sessions. So we're going to be talking about everything creator-focused for the next 3 sessions here, particularly how to level up your influencer marketing campaigns, how to identify the correct creators that fit your brand, and also how to create content that's really going to resonate with your intended audiences. So the influencer marketing and creator area is one that's seen huge growth over the last few years. Since 2019, it's grown threefold to be roughly worth around $24 billion at the moment. So with that kind of spend means that brands are obviously putting a lot more effort and money behind this, but it means consumers are becoming more aware and savvy of these types of campaigns. So as marketeers, it's very important that we all put the effort and create content that really resonates with these audiences. So for our first session, we've got a fireside chat that talks about authenticity in your influencer marketing campaigns. So if you're welcome to the stage, Karen and Nick. Karen is from NHS Blood and Transplant, and Nick from Brandwatch.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today. And Karen, thank you for this chat.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming today. I'm Karen. I'm very privileged, I have to say, to work for the NHS Blood and Transplant. And our main aim is to reach a new generation of donors, either to get people to register as organ donors or to come and give blood, plasma, or stem cells.
Fantastic. And I'm Nick. I'm the product marketing director at Brandwatch, where we provide consumer intelligence and social media management and influencer marketing tools for a whole range of different kinds of businesses, such as public organizations and brands and agencies. So when we were setting up this interview, I think one of my first comments was like, how long have we got? Because this is one of these conversations when we talk about influencer marketing and new approaches that I could go on about for hours, especially with someone like Karen and all the experience that she has. I will try not to take up too much time and allow some other questions from the audience later today. Karen, you began your career in the music industry. You just told me actually earlier you worked for Rockstar Games as well. And you've worked for some very well-known charitable organizations. And now you're working at the NHS sourcing creators and influencers for the blood and transplant division. So in all that time, how have you seen influencer marketing creator campaigns evolving? And how are you trying to keep up with the changes that you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, I think even going back to when I worked in music industry, I was a PR, so I represented what people looked like in the public for bands and for celebrities. So that was kind of a story that you were telling. You were reaching out to journalists to get people to tell somebody else's story. We were media training people. Whereas now you're on a massive sweep. So I would often get people coming to me and they would hate a story that it was somebody's interpretation of who they were, of what their product was, of what their creativity was. Whereas now people can talk to their audiences directly, which I think is a hugely empowering thing. And content creators are out there taking all sorts of subjects and reaching huge audiences and making such an impact with them. And that is such an amazing thing for someone like me who is reaching out to a new audience and a new generation of blood donors. It means that I can reach out to influencers who have really authentic stories, who are in those communities, who can really create lots of impact without having to go to a journalist or a broadcaster and we've got a few minutes. This means that I can work with them long term on reaching out to that audience and informing, educating, and also showing rather than telling, which I think is a lot of what marketing has been in the past. With a content creator, rather than you kind of just giving some facts or figures or anything like that, you can get them going out and talking to people, or you could get them going out and showing, here is what a blood donation's like. And it's not scary, and it's not sore, and it's not painful, and it doesn't take up loads of your time either. So it's really impactful for me. And we see lots of people signing up as well when we get the right influencers in.
Amazing. And we're talking today a little bit about, marketing to Gen Z specifically. Are there any differences in the types of content or the channels that you think are distinct when you're trying to target that kind of audience as opposed to older generations?
Yeah, I think because I work on organs and plasma as well, that's an older audience for us. Well, one of the audience sectors is older, so we tend to use a lot of Facebook there for certain audience segments, and Twitter as well, whereas we wouldn't really use that for Gen Z. We go onto TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram as well. Although the NHS is not allowed to have its own TikTok channel. So any TikTokers who are in the audience who would like to work with me, we love working with your channel, but we're not allowed to repost it. So we usually repost that content onto our Instagram channel.
Very interesting. And so influencer marketing, obviously such an important channel as you've been describing in trying to get some of these messages across, trying to change opinions and encourage, action.
Yeah.
How do you then start the process of finding the right kind of influencers for quite a different topic to what most people would associate influencer marketing, being about? How do you decide who you're going to work with, and how do you try to quantify that in order to find the right people?
So most of the people I would reach out to would be something I'm on social media a lot, so I'm looking at a lot of things. I work with a lot of community organisations. I work with a lot of our community organisations, work with a lot of schools. So we're constantly listening to what Gen Z are telling us, who they like online, what kind of trends they like, what they want to know about, what they don't know about. And the other thing is I would never really reach out to an influencer who didn't have experience. I think content has got to be storytelling, and the more genuine your storytelling is, it really impacts with their audience. And, Gen Z are such a highly clued up age group. They're going to spot anything that's not authentic. When they're scrolling through, if they follow someone and the content just doesn't look like their normal content and not in the right tone and not in their voice, they're going to scroll past that and on to the next piece of content. So it's got to be the most genuine and honest story that's there. So I'm working with one of the areas that we work in is sickle cell is now the fastest growing genetic blood disorder in the UK, actually in the world. And people with sickle cell need regular blood transfusions. And sickle cell mostly affects people of black heritage. So we need to reach out to a whole new generation of young people who are black heritage to tell them that they are 10 times more likely to have the RO subtype in their blood, which can be used to treat people with sickle cell. And it's talking about community. And I've got this most wonderful influencer at the moment who I was actually following because I loved her spoken word. And then I found out that her sister had sickle cell, her youngest sister had sickle cell and died as a baby. And then her other younger sister has sickle cell. So I reached out to her to see if she wanted to work with us and talk. Obviously, we don't want to be creating content that's not like her content. So we sat down and looked at how to create that content, how to make it work with her audience. So we did an amazing influencer event down at one of our, at Shepherd's Bush, and she created a piece of spoken word and performed at it. And we invited other spoken word artists down, presenters down, and journalists down. And it was a great way of them finding out what giving blood is like, because a lot of people are scared. They think it takes ages. They think you have to go miles away to do it. And I think we spiked the highest we'd ever spiked after doing that event and after putting out 2 pieces of content from it at Christmas as well, which were all factual. And because we were listening to what people were saying on her channels as well, we were able to hear what people were asking and all the questions, and then readdress that with a sort of secondary piece of content later on, reacting to all her followers and what their questions were.
Yeah, fascinating. I remember hearing you talk about that particular campaign, and there was something so important about not trying to, you know, put a lens over it that you know, let's not talk about the fact that it might hurt or that it's inconvenient or that it's frightening, but actually, you know, embracing that and people realizing, like, oh no, this is a real person that's talking about their experience, but I can now trust a little bit better, like what they're actually trying to.
Yeah, and we kind of got everyone's reaction on the way in. Have you donated blood? What you scared of? Blah blah blah. And then we did a secondary bit of content when people were coming out and asking them what they felt like. And most people were saying, I feel euphoric, I feel I've done something for my community, I'm going to go out and encourage other people to do it. I couldn't realise it was so quick, it was so easy, and that one donation can save up to 3 lives, and it takes less than 5 to 10 minutes.
And I think, you know, what's at the heart of that point, you know, of authenticity and really speaking directly, right, is about how we are actually influenced, as human beings of any age. And so often, you know, the most compelling influence that you have is people that you know, people that feel like they're your friends, people with friends and family, and when you're having a very honest and open conversation. And I think one other thing that we were talking about when we met last week was the way that we consume media, and not just Gen Z, right? But all of us, the way that we consume media has shifted so much. And I remember, you know, trying to think about, well, when I was a teenager, what was influencing me in terms of kind of public health, you know, communications and stuff. And I remember some of those sort of very gritty, very kind of shocking kind of TV ads on a Friday night. You know, they got it on the TV, and that was the thing that I remember.
Yeah.
You know, as an old millennial. And that's changing now, because that Friday night is no longer that sort of central communication moment. There's so many different channels. How do you think that the way that we consume media and the way that that's changed, how does that inform the way that you approach this discipline of communication?
Yeah. I think now you've removed that kind of like, you've removed that lens, you've removed that third person, that sort of middleman barrier, and you're reaching out to people who want to take that message out, who are telling their story, who are relatable to the people that are following them, who are trusted. You know, there's a huge amount of trust with someone going into their community and talking to their community about why we want to empower people, why we want to help people. And also they're giving the, you know, we're able to listen as well to that community through that influencer and go back to them with factual information or the information that they're wanting from us, or even addressing things that they may have thought about what giving blood was like or organ donations like, so we can actually address those things with kind of myth-busting videos without it going through something like a short TV program or something like that. The other thing with the influencers I work with, I tend to not just work one-off with them, I tend to have a relationship with them so that we can have long-term relationships, so that maybe 2 to 3 times in a year they'll be talking to their audience about why they're supporting this, that we'll be doing an event together, we'll be going to a school together, and we'll be creating content with all those people that's really natural on their feeds as well.
It's so much more than just the single campaign, isn't it? It's a whole process. Thank you very much, Karen. I, as I promised, I'm not going to hog all the questions. There should be some microphones out there, so please put your hand up and wait for the microphone, because then we'll be able to hear you properly. Do we have any questions out there for Karen?
My name is Dev, and I just wanted to ask, like, at the moment we see a big shift and a decline of like how people react to influencers, and more shifting towards like UGC type of content, which is user-generated content for people that might not know. So you mentioned that you particularly will work with someone that has experience.
Yeah.
But maybe did you put the problem in the way that let's create maybe more organic content
Absolutely.
through UGC creators in order to like reach more brand awareness? Because I feel at the moment it's just like people are still skeptical about UGC creators, but I feel like they should be within like the influencer marketing. So I would like to know, what is your opinion over those creators?
So first of all, the NHS don't pay people to support us. So when I'm reaching out to them, I have to be majorly careful to really know their content, to know what's working with their followers, to read what their followers are writing to them, and to really kind of get behind how that connection's been made. And whenever we make content, it's together, it's myself and the influencer, looking at what works with their audience, what's making their audience work with them, what's making their audience trust them. I work with a really beautiful singer called Ines Ray, and she's doing really well on TikTok. She's just been followed by Khloe Kardashian, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But her father and her do these really hilarious videos together, and he imitates her in all her sort of teenage ways. And then I was actually following her because I love music, and I loved her music. Obviously, I'm from the music business. And then she put out a piece about her father having a heart transplant and all what had happened. So I contacted Ines to say, would you and your dad like to make content with us and be ambassadors for us and come to events and things like that? So we kind of did an announcement on her channel, and then she was going to be talking to her followers, and then we asked them what their questions were as well. And that's a very Gen Z audience, because we had a lot of sort of like 12 and 13-year-olds following her who were like, am I allowed to sign up to be an organ donor yet? And we were hearing all these kind of questions from that age group that we could react to through Ines speaking to them really naturally. And when she did content, we didn't do it as this is about organ donation. This is we changed the tone to make it very upbeat. And it was her and her dad doing a really, really funny video about showing people how they could do it in less than a minute if they wanted to register to be an organ donor. Then we saw the questions coming in, and obviously, as I'm working with Ines, I'm like, whatever, just make sure that I'm on WhatsApp at the same time, and I'll keep an eye on all the questions that are coming in from people so that I can give her all the answers, and, because they're not experts on where they should go on our website or who they should be asking about things. So I'm always on hand to make sure that I'm able to engage with our audience correctly as well and give them the information. So I think, for me, it's working with people with that authentic story. They're passionate about working with us. And also, when I'm working with content creators, when I go back to them, but especially if we put a link into their bio, I can go back to them and say, do you know that X amount of people have signed up directly because of your content? So if we get, say, Shayna Marie from Capital Extra did an event, we had about 60 people sign up to register to give blood. You can multiply that by 3, because that would be 180 people's lives saved thanks to that one piece of content. And those people that have registered may go on to donate for the rest of their lives and encourage other people to do it. So it's very organic. But I agree with you, anything that's flat and it's not real, nobody's going to interact with it.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for the question. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, well, we've got about 5 more minutes, so we've got time for a couple more.
Thanks. So when you're working with these influencers and doing this kind of content, are you having them spell out that you're actually working with them, or are you kind of just being like, do what you're doing and talk about going to do these like donations and whatnot? Or are you getting them to say, we're working with NHS in this video? Like, are you having them spell out that it's not an ad because you're not paying them, but...
Yeah, so a lot of it, as I say, I really want to develop long-term relationships with our content creators, influencers, and celebrities. So when people want to work with us long-term, they come into this. I've created this. It's our celebrity and influencer advocates for NHSBT, and they don't just create content with us. They will come into schools and do talks. They will come out to community events. They will visit people in hospital. They will speak to families directly who are waiting on an organ donation. So there's all sorts of things that they could be doing for us through the year. And what I usually do is I sit down and plan through at the beginning of the year, or as and when and I show them the key moments throughout our year, and then I ask which ones they would like to support. And then we go into that sort of creative process of what can we do around that time that would work. And it's very much looking at, for me, whenever I work with anyone, I will know their content inside out, backwards, forwards, who their followers are, because I don't want them to put something onto their channel that doesn't get a reaction and reduces their followers. So I want something that's going to inspire their followers and be very honest to them as well. So we'll come up with lots of different ideas together. And they'll obviously ask me lots of questions, but if I've got some really top-line facts, like we need 1 million new donors in the next 5 years, and it's really easy to do. We create content like that, but I'm very much about, when we're creating content, the most effective content that we can see. It's learning every time you put out a bit of content, what is working, what is resonating. And the thing for us is not telling people about donation, it's showing them donation. It's going up to speak to people. It might be them going into a centre doing vox pops with people who've never donated before and asking them what they feel like afterwards, what they know about donation. So it's that kind of really kind of informative but fun as well way of working with them, and then obviously feeding back to them how amazing their content's been and how impactful it's been. It's great.
Thank you. We have another one.
Hi. Can I just say thank you for an insightful truth session, because most of the sessions we've attended today have been trying to tell us something, and you've actually given us insight and truth and transparency, which is amazing. Just really honest question. What happens when it goes wrong? What happens, what do you do to rescue a situation when it maybe you've handed over the reins and it's not quite gone as you've wanted it to?
Don't hand over the reins.
Okay.
So what I usually do is we will sort of like look at something, script it out, how it's going to be. Obviously, people can tweak it to their own voice, but before it goes anywhere, it comes to me, and I just sort of fact check it and make sure everything's okay in it. Because it can be complicated talking about different communities. It can be complicated talking about organ donation, especially because somebody could be very, very badly affected or waiting on an organ out within your followers. So I know how to tone things because we see it on our channels as well at NHSBT. We know how to speak to our audience who are waiting for organ donation or who have needed a blood or who need regular blood. So everything will go through me, and our influencers or content creators or celebrities, once we've either filmed with them or gone along and filmed with them to do something, or they're self-filming it, it always comes through me just to check it and make sure it feels it's upbeat and it's factual, but it's not too heavy as well.
We've got another question over here. I think we've got time maybe for 2 more.
Hi. I'm interested to hear, I work for a charity as well in the influencer marketing section, so we also don't have a budget for the people that we work with, and what I'm kind of seeing as time goes on, and obviously influencer marketing is just absolutely skyrocketing. We've started working with people for free and they've done loads of great work for us, and then as time's gone on, they've got more popular, kind of gone into that next bracket, I suppose, and are now kind of requesting to be paid for the work that they do, so that means we then can no longer kind of work with them because we obviously don't have the budget for that. Do you see that becoming more of a trend, do you think, as kind of influencer marketing improves? Or
yeah,
do you think there'll always be a bit of a space for kind of the free influencer work if they've got the same kind of connections and passions that you do?
Yeah, I've had this my whole career. Within charities and within the NHS, we can't, you know, when I explain to influencers that we can't pay influencers to talk about organ donation or any kind of donation, because ethically it's not right, because we don't pay the public. There's an infected blood inquiry because people were getting paid to give blood, and there's huge reasons of safety and authenticity. And so once people understand that, I've had so many influencers come to me and say, I'd love to work with you. And I'm like, what's your story? Why do you want to do it? And once I say, we absolutely can't pay you, but at that point, you know, we're kind of further down the line into them talking about their story and why they want to do it. And most people come back to me and say, no, I still want to do this. But I will have people who want money, but they're not right for our audience, and they're not right for reaching out to people within our communities. We've got a massive campaign called The Giving Type, and it's all about how we're all giving types. We all do stuff. We all give to charity. During the pandemic, we were sort of out tapping for the NHS. We are a giving nation. We're one of the nations that are always rescuing animals. You know, we give the highest amount to charities. It's in all of us, and you know, if you can do a blood donation, go and do it. You know, so if our influencers always feel quite inspired by that.
Sorry, I said we've got time for 2 more, but we don't.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Karen and Nick.
Thank you.